that the only people who will define what marriage is in this state is the electorate of North Carolina. That's the issue here. And that's just right. Now, I'm sure you're already hearing a number of arguments from the opposition that I believe and will argue to you that are nothing in the world. Matter of fact, let me meddle a little bit. Every pastor or minister has the right to meddle once in a while. And friends, I want to tell you something. These television ads that you're seeing and some of the things you are hearing about this amendment, I've done all I can to be respectful in this debate, and I will do all that I can to remain respectful. But I want to tell you, the nonsense that you are hearing coming from the other side of this issue is nothing but blatant fabrications. Now, it's one thing to have a political opinion, and it's one thing to be misinformed. But it is another thing altogether to argue something when you know it's not right, but yet you're doing it to scare folks out of voting for something. And that's what the other side is doing. And I hope and I pray to God you'll see through it. Amen. It's a bald-faced lie. Maybe that'll make the papers. I don't have time tonight to take up all of their talking points against the amendment. It would take a few hours to address every one of their spurious remarks. But here's what I want to encourage you to do. There's a website that deals with all of their talking points. It's comprehensive. It addresses just about everything related to the marriage amendment. I want to encourage you to go to that website, voteformarriagenc.com. Will you say that with me? Voteformarriagenc.com. One more time, voteformarriagenc.com. Now you go to that website, you surf that website, you study that website, and I guarantee you when you're through reading what's there, you'll be convinced that North Carolina needs a marriage amendment. And that website will address every one of their talking points against this amendment. But tonight, I want to address at least a couple of their contentions that I think go to the heart of much of their opposition. One argument says that the amendment would be writing discrimination into our state's constitution. Well, let me make something clear. Contrary to every headline that the press prints on this subject, and I don't have to belabor the point, I've already touched on it briefly, but as you can already see, the media has largely been completely against us on this amendment. Bless God, my friends, I don't know how to do it. I really don't know how to do it. Here I go again, meddling. I don't know how to do it. But in this country, we have got to find a way to get the press restored to objectivity. It is destroying this country, and it is robbing us of our freedoms. It's putting us in great jeopardy. Our founding fathers believed that one of the important things for keeping a free people was a free press that was fair and objective. Now, but you hear headlines in the press like this: anti-gay amendment followers or anti-gay amendment supporters, etc., etc. You know, let me say something. This is not an anti-gay amendment. This is a pro-marriage amendment. This is not anti-anyone. It doesn't make gays and lesbians second-class citizens either. This is the fact of the matter. Amendments to the Constitution are meant to define the people's rights. The right to free speech, the freedom of religion, the right to bear arms, the right to vote at the age of 18. And this amendment would simply define another right in our state. Who has the right to marry? And I will say to you that this amendment is discriminatory. In the same way that the U.S. Constitution says that 17-year-olds can't vote. Amen or oh me? It is discriminatory in saying a man can't have two wives. It is discriminatory in saying a woman can't have two husbands. It is discriminatory in saying a man can't marry his sister or vice versa. Let's be objective. All laws discriminate. But it is discrimination against behavior that is allowed. And on what legitimate basis could we possibly deny polygamist, bigamist, or even the incestuous among us if we allow one group, same-sex couples, to have the right to marry and not all of these others too? Surely they also could claim discrimination. And if same-sex marriage is ever legalized, you can be assured of one thing: they will. Still another argument says that the amendment is a violation of the separation of church and state, and that it imposes a religious bias and bigotry into law. Well, certainly it's true that we don't want the state running the church or the church running the state. But such an objection misses the mark entirely. My friends, the notion that there can be no religious influence on our laws is a myth of our time. Keep in mind that churches in the Bible also teach that murder, rape, and child abuse are wrong. But we don't say that laws prohibiting such behavior is a violation of the separation of church and state. The fact is, if our government could never pass laws consistent with church or biblical teachings, then all of our criminal laws would need to be overturned as unconstitutional, because each and every one of them in some way is consistent with at least one of the 10 Commandments. I hope that tonight I've convinced everyone here to join with this critical effort to protect marriage as one man and one woman by helping us educate the electorate on this issue and get out the vote between now and May the 8th. And friends, let me tell you something. It took over 8 years to get this on the ballot. Over 8 years. And this is it. If we don't pass it now, chances are we won't get another opportunity. This is it. I hope you're not only thinking about the cause of Christ, but I hope you're thinking about your children, your grandchildren. What kind of world they're going to be living in. And this is our moment that Providence has assigned to us. I've got 3 grandchildren. I know, I look too young. I love my grandchildren. I'm a granddaddy who's eat up with it. My 6-year-old grandson came into the room recently, and I said to him, "Camden, your shoes are on the wrong feet." And he looked up at me and he said, "No, they're not, Granddaddy. These are the only feet I've got." Don't you love your children? You love your grandchildren? Well, I tell you, the kind of world that they're likely to have is the one we left to them. This is our moment. And it's not only a spiritual battle, but it's also a battle about them and their future. Let me tell you, we're in the fight, a tough fight right now. Let me be honest with you in telling you that with all of these falsehoods and all of this campaign of misinformation by the opposition, we are slipping in the polls on this issue. And one of the reasons is because we don't have as much money as they have. They're outspending us in television ads 2-to-1 right now. And we are unable, as they are, we are unable to get our positive message out on the television, letting folks know what this is really about and assuring people that what the other side is saying is just not true. And so I will be transparent because I don't know what God is doing and who in His providence He may have brought here tonight, but generous donations are needed right now for television advertisements. We need your help. We need to get out our message. And let me just say that what you're hearing, this amendment does not impact other couples or the benefits they received. It does not impact domestic violence laws, interfere with existing child custody and visitation rights, or invalidate trust, wills, and the end-of-life desires. It affects none of those things. I hope that you will commit this effort to prayer, recognizing that victory is not a foregone conclusion. And if we lose, I believe it will be because too many of us who really believe that marriage is one man and one woman assumed that this would pass. And we didn't go to the polls and cast our own vote. And we didn't care enough to try to get others to go and vote for it as well. That is a mistake that we cannot afford now. And I hope that you will make a promise to God tonight that you're going to go to the polls either during early voting or on May the 8th and cast your vote in favor of the marriage amendment. Cast your vote for the marriage amendment. Cast your vote in favor of marriage as one man and one woman. And I will tell you what one pastor said to me. I was in his church speaking about this 3 weeks ago, and you know what he said? He said, "I'm going to early voting to vote for the marriage amendment in case I die before May the 8th. I thought that was a pretty astute observation. Again, this is our one chance to get this done. Let's not let this moment slip away from us forever. I want to leave you with a quote tonight. William Butler Yeats wrote a poem once titled The Second Coming, and since it's a very long poem, I won't quote it in its entirety. I just want to quote a line of it because I think it's so very important. The poem talks about the second coming of Christ. It talks about how our culture is moving more and more toward destruction, and that this is a time of great conflict, of tremendous issues. And Yeats in that poem says, the best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. My friends, I have been representing your Christian values in the North Carolina General Assembly now for 13 years, and my experience in those halls of power has shown me this. The leaders of the abortionist movement, the leaders of the gay rights movement, the atheist, the evolutionist, the gambling industry, the liquor industry, and all the left-wing cadre are full of passionate intensity about their causes. While the best, God's own people, seemingly lack any conviction at all. And I ask you tonight, where is the passionate intensity of God's people to save America, to save our state from moral ruin? Let me tell you something. Those people who are robbing our nation of its soul have it. One historian has said that it is people like that, people who have that kind of passionate intensity, who are the people who always win. I hope that my time with you tonight has stirred you. Stirred you with a passionate intensity during this critical juncture in history to stand for righteousness. Marriage is God's first institution. It is the cause of Jesus Christ. I am reminded of one other quote made by one of my great heroes, Martin Luther, that great spiritual giant of Reformation days, who said something that has stuck with me and changed my life through the years. He said, "Though we be active in the battle, if we are not fighting where the battle is the hottest, we are traitors to the cause of Jesus Christ." God forbid that any of us here would be found a traitor to the cause of Christ. I trust that you believe, you passionately believe, that marriage originated in divine wisdom and goodness as one man and one woman, designed by God to promote happiness and holiness. This right is the foundation of home life and social order, and must so remain until the end of time. God save the church. God save the great state of North Carolina. God save America.